Welcome to Bridge by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders connect with aspiring leaders connect with experienced politicians to gain insights and inspiration for their own political journey. Today I'm here with Rachel Payne. She is a member of the beautiful Red Room in Parliament, Victoria, for the South East Metropolitan
Region.
Yes, region. I've just butchered the intro. How would you best introduce yourself?
I would say I'm a member for Legalise Cannabis Victoria. I'm a crossbencher.
I should do party drops. I'm so
That's
sorry.
all right.
I need
That's
to
all
get
good.
better at that.
As a crossbencher, I think that we bring a certain pizzazz to the upper house, but also we can be a bit more provocative. We're there to ask the questions. We're there to hold the government to account. We're there to collaborate and achieve change. And I think it's a pretty important and powerful tool that we've got being on the crossbench.
Yeah. That's your introduction for you?
Sure.
All right. Beautiful. Love it. So I do try to start off a bit light. And I have a scrub through the Instagram. And I do want to brag about how oh yeah, sorry. Oh, fun. So I try to scroll through the Instagram and try to find something light and fluffy and fun to talk about.
Oh, great.
And I just want to give you points for your social media game.
Thank you.
The work, the collaborative efforts you do with Georgie on the Animal Justice Party.
Yes.
You know, you two, I don't know, really good collaborators. So did you want to talk about that experience and what it's like, you know, trying to be such a social media trendsetter?
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's such a fine line with social media between finding engaging conversation and also being accessible. And for me, it's important to be on social media because it is a point of reference. It is accessible by way of, it's free, it's accessible. It also allows for translations. So I think that those sorts of things are important. But it's also a place where you can have great cat content, talk about animals, and some of the things that we really collaborate on as members of Parliament is our shared interests. And for Georgie and I, it's very much around women's health and women's justice, women's health and justice issues. But it's also around sort of animals, people, planet. So we have a lot of synergy, Georgie and I think we come to this place with that lens of wanting to collaborate and wanting to sort of use our resources as best we can. And we're both from really small parties. The best way to sort of make change, and we saw that with pill testing. We worked closely with the Greens and Animal Justice, Legalise Cannabis. We put up a joint piece of legislation there, pardon the pun. But yeah, I think when people actually see that politicians are working together to enact change, it's not so much about our egos, it's about what we can achieve and what we can get done.
It's about getting results, It's not this side or that side or bickering.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So I can think for us it's that, we have strong social justice backgrounds, Georgie and I. We both care about our community deeply. We care about inequalities when it comes to, for her, it's about animals. For me, it's about particularly our most vulnerable being criminalised. And we come at any sort of position we form through an evidence-based scope. So, yeah, we found a lot of common interest and we enjoy working together.
Yeah, okay. What was it like the first, just like knock on your door at the office and be like, oh, you want to film something? Or is that what it basically was? Or
sort of, kinda. Yeah. I guess Georgie and I have known each other prior to being elected through a mutual friend of ours, Fiona Patton, who was originally Sex Party and then became Reason Party. And Fiona had 2 terms in Parliament prior to Georgie and I being elected. So we've had that common thread of conversation, and often Fiona will invite people around for a glass of wine, maybe a joint,
Yeah, okay.
And Georgie and I often will cross paths in that respect. And it's been more about how do we use what limited resources we have and get the most out of it. And I mean, Georgie's social media game is very strong in comparison to mine. No doubt. She's the queen of social media when it comes to us in the upper house. But it's been a really good opportunity, I think, just for us to find that common ground and show people that politics is accessible. Politicians are real people. We also enjoy just having a bit of fun online. talking about serious topics with a fun scope to it or a fun lens.
In a way to sort of translate it to everyday people?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I have an amazing social media team behind me as well. Some of them look at trends and forecasts around that. We look at ways that we can engage people on a different level.
Mhm.
And what I find is when you sort of have a bit of fun on social media, that does gain you traction, but it also means the more serious things you want to talk about also start to gain a bit more traction as well, which is what the important element of it for me is.
Yeah, okay. Broadening that reach, being more appealing so that people
Yeah,
are putting their eyes on it.
that's
This
it.
could turn into a conversation about social media, but no, you know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. And then if more people are actually there, they can pay attention to the serious things.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's also showing that we're not just a one-trick pony. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, I'm elected to represent Legalise Cannabis, and cannabis will be what I will, always focus on in Parliament.
Mhm.
But I also come with a background in social justice, in law reform.
Mhm.
There's things that I really care about that I want to see changed. And so it gives me an opportunity to showcase some of those other things that I care about and things that I work on.
Yeah, okay. Not just about the name of the party.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. No, I just wanted to compliment the game. That's all.
Thank you.
The social media game. It's fun to watch, which is
Thank
probably the
you.
aim of it.
Awesome.
So before politics, what were you up to? What did a normal day sort of look like for you?
Before entering politics, I represented the adult industry by way of I was the executive for Eros Association.
Mhm.
And Eros being in sort of layman terms is the god of love.
Mhm.
In an element around what I would do in my day-to-day, I represented age-restricted premises more broadly. So it was a national peak body and our membership base was small businesses that are in the adult industry. So it could be anything from your adult retail stores or sex shops, brothels, sex on premises venues, strip
Yeah.
clubs, you name it. We would have represented it if it was age restricted.
Yeah, okay.
And it might have been some simple things of taking a call from a business owner who was looking at expanding their store. It may have been sort of their negotiations with local council around opening an age-restricted premises.
Mhm.
So my job sort of entailed a lot of like looking at regulations, working with different stakeholders. There was also an element of advocacy that I would work on, so destigmatizing the industry.
Yeah. Stop
And
pulling it out of the shadows and
that's right.
having the conversations and
Yeah, that's right.
making it safe for everyone
Exactly.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And, the adult industry employs a lot of people, from sex workers through to performers, through to those that work in the retail stores. And
Yeah.
each person has their speciality in that field. And
Mhm.
it was about those people being recognised in that space. And particularly during COVID, I mean, the adult industry retail side of things absolutely boomed. About 300% uptake in people purchasing adult pleasure products.
Yeah, okay. Whether it's people bought at home or starting their own online business in some fashion.
Drop
Yeah, okay.
shipping became
Yeah.
there was a whole new element to drop shipping when that was accessible during COVID, for sure.
Okay. So sort of being that middle person for advocacy for these business owners or individuals
Mhm.
and helping them navigate certain policies in place or addressing the government on certain things.
That's
or,
right. Anything from like representing them through government processes. Say,
Mhm.
for example, if there was an inquiry into age verification of pornography, I would be the person who would go and speak to that before the e-safety commissioner.
Yeah, okay.
Or through to the media would inquire about adult pleasure products and why we're seeing an increase in women and couples going into sex shops. Those sorts of things I would comment on, through to a business owner contacting me saying their banking agency or the bank that they work with has just closed all of their bank accounts with no notice. And I would be the person to sort of work with them through that process of, looking at the fact it was discrimination and how best
Yeah.
they sort of navigate that.
Yeah.
And we have to remember we're talking about legal businesses here. So they're
Yep.
businesses that pay tax, they pay their employees, they pay superannuation.
Like any other business.
Any other business.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for them to have that stigmatization around and discrimination is something that I was really passionate about.
Mhm.
And breaking down some of those stigmas meant that people were safer at work or people had more opportunity to, I guess, educate others better as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I lost my question. God, I'm not good at this. No,
That's
I had a
okay.
retort to that where it's like, nah, she's gone. Never mind. We
It'll come
tried.
back. It'll come
Maybe,
back.
maybe. No, yeah, because it's like that like it's not just them having to run a business like everyone else. It's
Yeah,
also like I think you said earlier, or not on camera, but before, where there's an extra layer of regulation involved
there
for
is. Yeah.
operating in that industry or
Yeah.
that sphere. So in some ways, it can be harder to run a business. So having an advocacy or an advocate like yourself in
Yeah.
that previous role was
Yeah.
beneficial.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, even silly things like there was a button battery ban. Now, can you imagine how many button batteries are in sex toys?
Mm,
That was a real shaker of the industry, and I had to be across what that meant.
yeah.
If it has a screw on it, does that mean where the button battery goes in, does that mean that the product is then feasible to be sold?
Yeah.
All these different elements that you would throw into a role, never a dull moment, that's for sure. But it was, I guess, my role was to not only allow businesses to operate in those quite sometimes restrictive frameworks,
Mhm.
I also was able to hold businesses to account as well. So,
Yeah. Okay. So those who are trying to sort of bend or break the rules here and there.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's like I had a TAFE teacher, and he's like, "Oh, we went to a business, and there's something dangerous laid out." And it's like, "Mate, you should probably clean that up." And the
Probably.
business owner was like, "No, shut up, bugger you." And then the next time the TAFE teacher went back, all of it was cleaned up. And he's like, "Oh, that's good that you listened to me." He's like, "No, no, WorkSafe came by. I got a big fine."
Whoops. See?
So you try to get
Yeah.
in there before
Most
the
certainly.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it is because it is such a complex environment.
Hmm.
If a local council changes certain requirements around where age restricted premises can operate, that
Uh,
impacts those businesses. So, you know, even to the extent of they have to operate within, certain industrial zones, for example, they can't operate on high streets. A perfect example is sort of we saw in Victoria before sex work became decriminalised
mhm.
that there was a huge issue for legal brothels where they would have to operate in, they were only allowed to have one brothel. They weren't allowed to have several businesses. They could only operate in industrial areas. Yet they saw and were quite upset by the fact there was a proliferation of massage parlours opening up that were obviously offering further services. So
Yeah. Yeah.
having that lens of, well, what would be best case scenario here is pushing forward with decriminalisation of sex work
Mhm.
so that there is not only more opportunities for those business operators that have been in the industry a long time, but those that are, potentially operating in that grey market and
Yeah.
operating on high streets,
Like a massage parlor.
that's right,
Yeah. Yeah.
may then have more opportunity to legitimise their business and
Hmm.
most importantly, that workers are safer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So should there be a crackdown on some of these massage places? Because it's awkward, right? I just want to get my shoulders done. I just want to clarify if any security camera gets released, I wasn't doing anything. I was just, my back hurt. And you walk in and you can
Mm.
get a vibe and you're like, oh, maybe not this one. And you
This
quickly race back out. You're like, all
and
right.
this is the thing. I think there is definite vibes. If a massage parlor is open past 10 a.m., 10 p.m., I should say.
Yeah.
If a massage parlor is open at 10 p.m. or later, then they're probably offering different services to what they're
Yeah. I
advertising.
went at 9:30, so it shouldn't have been. Just want to clarify that.
We'd had a bit of a running joke that in Victoria everyone must have a bit of a crook neck
Yeah.
because there's just so many massage
So
parlors.
many.
But that's what you get when you have such heavy regulation around opening a brothel and you're only entitled to have one business.
Yeah.
In no other business capacity would that be a limitation. So,
Yeah.
when you've got heavy licensing fees, limits on how many rooms you can have, all of
Mhm.
these sorts of requirements to open these sorts of businesses, of course, what you see is an explosion of an illegal industry.
Yeah.
Like prohibition just doesn't work, but heavy regulation also causes other issues, and that's sort of what we saw.
Yeah.
And I think it has definitely calmed down to an extent
Mhm.
with decriminalisation of sex work, and there being more, um, I guess, more conversation around it and more education.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. That's a shame. They can't, like a McDonald's can set up franchises
That's
in different
right.
stores,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then people have to awkwardly go to not a McDonald's
And this is what
and
we
then
saw with
get a burger.
decriminalisation of sex
Yeah.
work was that not only the incentive of workers' safety has to be paramount, but also recognising the fact that established businesses could have more opportunity by if they're a good business owner, they've got a good rapport with workers, that they can have the opportunity to open other businesses. And that's sort of where the buy-in came in from all people in the industry around decriminalisation.
They're like, all right, okay, cool. We'll keep everything above board, by stand.
Right.
Yeah, okay, meet all the laws.
Exactly.
Please let us open another one. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So a good cause, I think. Because then if it's regulated, it can be safely done.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So same thing for, I guess, legalized cannabis. When it's illegal, you know, people can add things to it. It's not meeting certain regulations or it's certain nutritional, if there is, nutritional benefits aren't, you know what I mean? You can slip things in there.
Of course.
Like the US with their fentanyl thing.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
My argument around why we should be decriminalising and legalising cannabis predominantly focuses on protection of people and harm minimisation. So particularly a young person, if they're going to a drug dealer, it's in the drug dealer's best interest to try and sell you every other product they have.
Yep.
Rather
Upsell.
than just selling you weed.
Like a dodgy car salesman, just upsell. Yeah.
Right. So in order to protect particularly young people, the best thing we can do is regulate it and educate.
Because a lot of people just want to try it at least once or they're just a casual user. They're not like an everyday sort of thing. And then a lot of those people, you hear some horror stories where something happens.
Sure.
You know, they're not many, but like it's when it does, it's just someone who was casually doing it.
Yeah.
And they get harmed and they were only ever going to probably do it once and then be like, oh, it's not for me.
That's right. Yeah.
You know?
I often have this conversation about, you know, understanding cannabis by thinking of how you would consume alcohol. So when you're a teenager, you might raid the parents' cupboard, in my instance, and mix it all together and create somewhat of a rocket fuel sort of tonic.
Yep.
You never end up feeling very great after drinking something like that.
No, and then your lessons are learned.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you then think that that's how you should consume alcohol for the rest of your life?
Some people, but no.
Do you think like drinking, you know, whiskey is like drinking wine? No, it's different. So there's always that nuance of conversation.
And then like allowing people to safely try things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. What we've seen, because, you know, it's not like cannabis is just a new product on the market. Cannabis has been used for millennia, forever.
Yeah.
And we have seen, and this is not through people reporting their cannabis use, but just by testing wastewater data, cannabis use hasn't really increased much at all, you know, even with the more accessible medicinal cannabis on the market now.
Yeah.
But what we are seeing is that people where cannabis is regulated, younger people try it later. And it's because it is out in the open. There is greater education around that. And it's not so taboo. I mean, I think when it's more taboo, you tend to feel like you're risk-taking, you're trying something different. You know, you're seeing old mate down the road and he's like, hey, have you seen this? Do you want to give this a try?
There's like that little internal rush to try and do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas in other jurisdictions where we've seen it either legalised or decriminalised, you know, people are trying it for the first time when they're 18, 19, 20, not necessarily when they're 14, 15.
I'll admit that. I think I was like 20, maybe 25 or something.
Yeah.
I first did it and I was like, not for me.
Yeah.
I'll do other things, but not that.
That's it.
Yeah. I'll never admit it. Yeah. That.
Interestingly, what we've seen as well is in the US, for example, the most booming sort of age bracket to start using cannabis or get into cannabis is those 60 and above. And there's this whole shift in rhetoric around sort of pain management, relaxation, but also people don't like to drink booze as much anymore. And, you know, they can have a gummy and have a good time and wake up fine the next day.
Yeah. Probably that's the worst part of drinking, I think, is the hangover.
Oh, definitely.
I'm not a big fan of that part.
I don't have time for hangovers anymore. So.
Yeah, right? That does make sense. Yeah, in your 60s. Yeah.
Also, apparently, it sort of helps with cognitive ability. There's new research talking about Alzheimer's or creativity. And, you know, there's a lot of benefits to therapeutic use of cannabis, that's for sure.
Was it something about like it helps bridge some of those neuron gaps or something. Like
Totally.
something like refires up all those connections in the brain. Isn't that the thing? Like,
Yes.
and then when you get older, it's a bit of a, there's something there.
Yeah.
We
There's
could-
lots of science involved in that. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
break it down to that. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, that's good. All right. Maybe legalize it. Who knows? See what happens. So was there something that really annoyed you or made you think that, like, you know what, I need to step in to this public role, or I need to put myself forward for a elected role position? What was there? Was there anything that stood out to you?
For sure. Like I've always been, like I grew up the daughter of a gyprock plasterer, and my mum sort of had a lot of different odd jobs, from cleaning houses through to, entering data and things like that for news agencies. I was the youngest of 5, and my parents were also foster carers. So I come from a very working class background, and I was really disenfranchised with how politics doesn't feel as though there's representation of the community that they're speaking of. And for me, it was like, I care about people. I care about our planet. I've never been afraid to stand up and speak on behalf of my community, and particularly elevating those voices that sort of get missed, and particularly those with lived experience. It's really important for me. In my instance, I was out of home when I was really young. I was out of home at 16. And that taught me a lot of lessons around being resilient, but also being independent. And as someone who's always followed politics but not felt represented, I love the saying of don't get angry, get elected, because it really points me in that direction of, I was so frustrated. I felt as though those that are in those decision-making positions aren't really representing our best interests. And, as someone who has grown up in a working class environment, as a young woman at the time, but also as a queer person, I really wanted to see more representation in Parliament. So one of those things where, you do just kind of have your calling, and you do put your hand up and you put yourself out there, and, feel the fear and do it anyway sort of attitude.
Yeah, just got to give it a go.
You do.
So it wasn't one thing in particular or anything, or a handful of things, or it's accumulative? Or?
Yeah, I think for me, when I was doing my undergrad at university, it was very much around it was a cost of living issue then, and talking about housing, but also around HECS. And it was when they turned from HECS into HELP, and them convincing us that, we're doing you a favour by, equating it to the consumer price index, which is way higher than interest, actually.
Which then we've just undone it by trying to give 20% off.
Oh, it's
okay, interesting.
And, any education, any credentials you have to constantly upgrade. It's not like they hold their value and continue to grow in value, but your university degree does. So,
what is it? It's like when I've heard it described as like you go to university, you're on the escalator, or any education really, you're on the escalator and you're just going up, you're learning, gathering knowledge, and then you step off. But it like you said, it stays there. It holds that. Yeah. Just holds that value. Not whole value. What am I saying? Anyway, yeah. It stays exactly where you stepped off the elevator. Yeah. You're not continually educating yourself. It's just, that's what it is.
I would even argue it depreciates.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we continue to pay for it. And I think for me, I was the only woman in my family who had been to university. I was very close with my grandmother, who my grandmother was one of these women who had absolute utmost respect for law and order and police, yet my grandfather was a very abusive police officer. So a lot of these things just didn't reconcile with me, and I felt as though, the best way to sort of enact change and create pathways for more people like us was to have that representation. And I want people to sort of see me in Parliament and go, I could do that. Because they can.
Yeah. Nothing's stopping you.
No.
That's good. That's what the message behind this is.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. All right. I'm probably interviewing the right person then.
Definitely.
So all of those factors contributing, what was the actual moment that made you put your hand up, or, like choose the party or choose this, or what? Yeah, what was that narrative?
I think my friends always are the ones to push me forward and say she's the voice that tells everyone what to do. Or I think I'm naturally a leader. So
you manage everyone paying the bill at the end.
Well, Yeah, to an extent, I suppose. I think if there was ever a zombie apocalypse, like I would be thrown into that role by my friendship group pretty quickly. So I've always been, I guess, in that position of where it's like not expected of me, but encouraged of me to be that voice.
I think I heard voluntelling.
Oh, I like
You're
that.
being volunteered and told to do this.
But I've always put my feet forward in and throw myself into these sorts of situations. But I had to be consistent. And anyone wanting to get involved in politics, it's about being consistent and putting yourself out there, but also giving it a go. Like very rarely does anyone get elected on their first time being a candidate. I ran in, I think, 4 or 5 elections before I was elected.
Wow, perseverance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And knowing full well that you're not going to get elected, when you're running for small micro parties, you're there to talk about the issues that you want to talk about and bring light to those issues. For example, I ran against Kevin Andrews in the seat of Menzies in a federal election way back when.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to talk more about access to abortion care, queer rights, marriage equality, all these things that he did not want to talk about. So he actually even refused to shake my hand at one of the meetings we had. So, but that's okay because it still meant that I was out there talking about things that I cared about.
Yeah. Okay.
During COVID, I ran in the Marybeck council elections as well, local council. So, yeah, wide and varied experience, but all of those experiences give you opportunity to talk about things you care about, things you want to bring to your community, how you can contribute, and also an opportunity to meet with different stakeholders and different community members that you may not ordinarily get the chance to speak to.
Yeah. Just putting yourself in the ring gets you in that position. Whether you get elected or not, you're still talking to everyone.
Yeah, I think that the more that you build your profile and the more that you are out there talking about issues, that's when I think you become more front of mind as the person to go to talk about those issues.
Yeah, okay. People consider you a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But as for cannabis, I mean, I've never shied away from the fact that I've been a cannabis consumer for all of my adult life. I despise the fact that it's so heavily stigmatized.
Yeah, not sure why, but
yeah, me neither. We're almost at 100 years of failed drug policy, and prohibition of cannabis is clocking up to 100 years. And I think that if we haven't learnt the lessons of what harm it causes, and particularly to our most vulnerable in the community, then we're really failing as a society.
Yeah. I didn't know there was a prohibition, like an official one. Like,
yeah, 1928.
I've had many housemates that would disagree with that, but yeah. Stinky rooms.
Yes.
So in the recent election, 4 years ago? No.
Yeah. 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So, yeah, we did. Yeah. Yeah, because we got an election next year. That's right. All right. I thought it was this year already. Thought it was 26.
Oh, you and me both.
Yeah, right. The future is now. So when you actually got elected 3 years ago in this in the big room, the red room.
Yes.
What was that like? Was there like a moment of reality kicking in, or realization of what's going on, or run me through the experience?
It was crazy. So with the upper house, there's often a bit of a counting process of getting elected. So the election was sort of, end of November, but we didn't find out we were elected until mid-December when they pushed the button. So it was a process of about 3 weeks of waiting for the count. And you turn up to where they host the button push, as it's affectionately known. And it's not as exciting as you think it is. It's just computers doing their thing, but it feels like you're waiting for a button to be pushed.
Like the lotto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it does feel a little bit like that. And when it is announced that you're elected, then you sort of expected to sort of walk out the front, and it was just a scene of a U-bolt of media around you. So at first it was like deer in the headlights kind of moment of, whoa, this is what's happening. And they're saying now you're the balance of power. You've got this, you've got that. What's your intentions in Parliament?
I was only elected 3 seconds ago and you're already quizzing me.
Yeah. So the first thing you're sort of talking about is some of the policy positions that you've put forward as you've been talking to voters all along all of the hustings along the way. And I think it's equal parts terrifying and equal parts elated. But Yeah, I felt a sense of relief,
Mhm.
but also purpose. And like I feel as though I've always known that one day I will be in this position, and it felt like that was just that reassurance that I'm here and now.
Yeah.
But in saying that, it has taken a lot to get to know this job, to understand the processes that are Parliament,
Yeah.
to manage the expectations as well as those who did get you elected or those that you work with within your party as to how quickly you can enact change. And it's hugely based on relationship building.
Yeah.
Mm.
Finding the right people in your team.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not like they give you a manual of this is how you be a member of Parliament.
Mhm.
You have 2 days of MP school, as we affectionately called it,
Oh, it's actually,
where
yeah.
where
Okay.
you sort of sitting in the chamber and they tell you, well, this is a constituent question and this is a question that you can ask a minister. And these are some examples of that.
Mhm.
But you have to engage a full suite of a team, all of that sort of stuff, building your office, building your presence in your electorate,
Yeah.
understanding sort of what your opportunities are in Parliament. And each sitting week, we do get to ask a constituency question. We get to ask a question where we ask a minister to have an action. We also get question time where we can ask ministers questions.
Mhm.
We can put bills or motions before the Parliament, but you only get 2 debate spots a year to discuss your business
That you're bringing
individually.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's an action? In clarification, is it actually action or?
Yeah, it might be like I'm working on in my local community. I'm working with some of the stakeholders around family violence prevention. I invite the Minister for Family Violence to attend a meeting with me,
Okay.
or it might be a call to action based on uh, this is something that I'm noticing within my community. Would the minister act? So,
To be present or be there or
or, for
talk on
example,
it.
I did a local community engagement exercise here in Chelsea where my office is.
Mhm.
And the crossing out the front of the train station is not fit for purpose.
Yeah.
And with a predominantly elderly community around here, they find it really unsafe. So we've done a petition before Parliament, and a call to action of the minister is let's review that crossing and where we can put one in that's safer and listen to the community, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Hear what they want rather than top
Exactly.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, where is it? Yeah, that's what I asked. So, what has been sort of the toughest part of this journey once getting into office?
Getting into office or being a member of
Or
Parliament? A bit of both?
being both. Yeah. Probably not the I mean more like the past 3 years sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
And you can probably include, the election time as well, like
Yeah.
the run up to election campaigning. That's what they call it.
Sure.
So, yeah, what was the experience and what is the toughest part of that for you
Well, I think with
that
campaigning,
people don't understand? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With campaigning, because we are such a small party,
Mhm.
we have very limited resources. And a lot of our membership base are people who either have chronic health conditions, are medicinal cannabis patients themselves,
Mhm.
or people who don't want to be out about their cannabis use. So you don't really have a huge uptake of volunteers that assist with the party.
Yeah.
And we don't have a lot of donations. So the 2022 election, we had about 23,000 for the whole state. And we managed to secure nearly 5% of the vote, which is an astounding result.
Big deal.
But in saying that, what we focused on was the issue that we were putting forward. So, all of our core flutes were just vote one, Legalise Cannabis Party. Our core issues were sort of 6 dot points on a small A5 flyer that we could hand out at how to vote. And it was very much around look for the leaf on the ballot and support the cause, not so much support us as candidates.
Yeah.
Because we felt as though what we're there to do is trying to achieve that change, and that's what is our core issue, and our membership base wanted us to focus on that, obviously. Having very little money and very little resources is really hard to do when you're predominantly a grassroots movement. And, pardon the pun again.
That's fine. Yeah.
There's so many references with
There
cannabis
is.
that are just
I
intertwined with politics.
I think I saw a list of them on the desk there.
Oh, yeah. I do have a bit of I want to do an alphabet of all the different names for cannabis from, the devil's lettuce through to,
That'd be a good social
reefer
media clip. There
madness.
you go.
And yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I would get banned from social media talking
Really?
about that. Oh, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
definitely. But I think campaigning wise, the hardest thing was encouraging people to see that the stigma really pushed a lot of people away. And I've had some really interesting conversations with people who are worried about young people accessing cannabis, through to some really interesting conversations with people who say it's the only thing that helps with my, and name the symptom, and they will say that. So it's wide and varied, and I love campaigning. I actually really enjoy being out there and talking to people. It can get quite volatile out there now. There's been a real shift in how people behave at voting centres.
Yeah, I've heard that. I think I was speaking to someone and they were on the committee for how to operate a bit more safely for people.
And I think when you've got this, certain political parties that try and have as many volunteers available on polling booths, but when you've got you and another volunteer there, just trying to have a chat with people, and then you've got other political parties that might have 10, 12, 15 people railroading conversations, or
just flailing in your face, the cards.
I think it really puts voters off, and it's everyone has to vote, and it's not like we can have online voting. You can have a postal option, but the fact that people have to turn up and go through that process, I think is quite daunting for a lot of people. And there's so much waste that goes into elections as well.
Yeah. All the paper and the plastic. And
thankfully, all of our core flutes there's the highest rate of stolen core flutes are the legalised cannabis ones. And I dare say they must be in every share house throughout Victoria.
So they're definitely getting recycled.
100% they are. So they're popular. But as for some of the hardest things that have been my experience in Parliament would be, I guess, having opportunity to have your voice more. It's the only job I've ever had where I feel most like a woman than I ever have in my whole career.
Yeah.
Sometimes I walk into meeting rooms and they assume that I'm there to take notes, not as the member of Parliament. I have a few of my staff members who are quite noticeably older than me, and it is assumed that they're the member of Parliament.
For them.
Yeah,
wow.
So I'm constantly having to, I guess, state my case. Which I find is interesting, because I've had professional jobs in the past where I have been that manager or that CEO role
and treated as such.
And treated as such. Not that I expect to be treated differently as a member of Parliament, but
there's a level of respect that should be there.
I think it's just more that as a woman, you're constantly reminded of that in this space. And it's even just some of your male colleagues that you work with, not to their detriment, but, just naturally in that environment, it's a very masculine world, and it's noticeable for me, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. It's a shame. I'm sorry that happens. I'm sure it's shifting. Yeah.
But it's even little things like the way that the building is set up. It's freezing in there because it's set to temperature of men in 3-piece suits.
Yeah,
the doors are all incredibly heavy, so you kind of have to use 2 arms to open the doors.
Yeah.
Just little things that you notice that it's just not. It has never been set up to factor in women, but we're changing that.
Yeah. Because they run a bit colder.
Yeah.
Sure. I had a thought: what if you hired a bunch of 10-year-olds and then they're younger than you, so you become the oldest person.
That's
true.
That's
a bad joke. But no, that could be.
I wonder how their parents would feel about cannabis.
Oh yeah, true that. Yeah, maybe
I
not.
often don't get invited to schools to speak, so.
Yeah, I think it's just the name. That's probably
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, don't think it's you personally.
No.
Don't stress. Yeah. Okay. So there's just like that slight hum of sexism to an extent.
Just that element of misogyny in politics.
Yeah, misogynist probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. And I think that, things like quotas, or the fact that a lot of political parties try and elevate the female voices, is really important. Well, I would say, minority voices more broadly, and, elevating women in those positions of decision making is really important. But it's almost like a default, and it was really obvious to me when I first fell into the role, that when I first became a member of Parliament, that there's this instant default of you're a woman and this is your place, which was odd to me.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
It's a shame. Again, that's not okay. But yeah,
It
Well,
just
I'm glad
gives
it's
us more
fixing that.
fight. Yeah.
There we go. Puckers
Yeah.
you up, gets you.
It does. Just gets us going. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. My
How
mum, she
dare
was a
they?
carpenter.
Yeah.
What was one of her many jobs? Like
Yeah.
when you were saying your mum's done many jobs, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I relate.
Yes.
Yeah, she went in to be a carpenter, and just the treatment she'd get,
Mm-hmm.
but she'd just come back swinging.
That's it.
You know,
You got to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got lots of friends who are tradies, and it's similar things. Even like not having a portaloo on job sites.
Yeah.
You know, women need a portaloo.
Because some of the men don't treat them very well.
No.
Yeah. Don't worry. On my drive here, you know how I was like, I need to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I was considering it, and then I was like,
nah,
maybe not.
Don't do it.
Some of these construction portaloos aren't the best. Yeah. So I guess with all this, your time in Parliament and, there's only so many sitting weeks in that, but you do spend the other part of the time in your community.
Yeah.
Do you utilize that time to stay connected with the people you're representing, or do you just hunker down here and do nothing, or what's the go?
I really try to, because when you're an upper house MP, you represent what would be 11 of the lower house seats as one upper house seat. So I have 600,000 constituents in the southeast. I can't represent each and every one of those individuals, but what I can do is look at where there is underrepresentation. And so I've worked with different community members and in different areas on local campaigns. For example, I work with the Hampton Park community on the fact that Veolia are trying to build a waste transfer station where they've got a tip. They're trying to move away from the landfill site. They're building a waste transfer station. It is super close to houses. It is a lower socioeconomic working class area, predominantly a coal community when English is not the majority of people's first language that live in that area. And for me, it was one of those issues where this is above politics. It shouldn't be about which political party you're affiliated with. This is about multinational companies coming in. And even though the EPA decided that they weren't to have their license, that it was not an appropriate place to set up a facility that was going to manage, I think it's 9 councils worth of rubbish.
Damn.
That's 1,000 trucks a week minimum coming through a local area.
In and out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The EPA said, no, we're going to reject your application. It's not fit for purpose, that area. They've challenged it at VCAT because they've got the money to do so. So for me, it was about standing up for my local community, but making sure that they have as much resource available to them to appeal these decisions.
Yep.
That community voices are heard, particularly those that are going to be living so close to this facility. Veolia, as the landfill operator, as the operator of the tip there, many residents don't trust them because they constantly are in breach of their guidelines that they have to operate within.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pollution concerns. There's a lot of noise concerns. Really close to schools. It's really close to childcare facilities. People are worried about their kids,
Yeah.
So the best way for me to represent my community is to work with the community where they're at and make sure that their voices are being heard in this space particularly. So yeah, the Hampton Park community and working with a lot of the stakeholders involved. So it's all residents groups really.
Yep.
And making sure that they have many resources available to them. And I'm doing things as well to make things accessible. So I've put a translation service on my website so that every time I ask a question in Parliament, if someone needs to have access to a different language and it translated, my website will do that for them.
I thought that'd be like a standard thing, wouldn't it?
I'm the only MP with one, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
I've also got a feature if you're neurodivergent, if you have ADHD, there's all sorts. If you have seeing or hearing impairments, it accommodates that as well. So
okay.
Try to be as accessible as possible because
like providing transcripts and okay.
So any speech I make in Parliament or any question I ask to a minister is all on my website, and we have that option that it can be transcribed in any language.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm learning Spanish, so I'll jump on that. Yeah, that's a shame about the these corporations sort of doing what they want to do, especially in neighborhoods that, like you said, maybe either low socioeconomic or they're just too busy. Well, that does come hand in hand where they're just too busy working. They don't have the time to fight these battles.
That's right.
So that's where people like you, representatives, come in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And work with their representatives as well, like the Residents Association, for example. These are salt of the earth people who just want their voices heard, and I guess find that most members of parliament will hear them out, but there won't be any action that sort of equates from that. And I think that that's sort of the role of the local member, really, to be able to support their local community.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I'm happy to pick up the fight and work with them. And I grew up in Newcastle, where we had similar issues around multinationals coming in and taking over, and
With the steel plants and that.
yeah. And grew up as a kid where my blood was tested every 12 months for lead.
Far out. Sorry, I said far out. I didn't say that. Yeah, okay.
So
Wow.
I get where they're coming from, and the fear there is it's a community, isn't it? They're the last to be considered in these situations. And yeah.
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 Upsetting.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is anything like that happening for these people? Getting checked?
Well,
Being next to a garbage
and the more
tip?
we investigate, the more we sort of there's cause for alarm. So things
Yeah.
like the EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency, they have very rigorous mechanisms to make sure that these facilities are operating appropriately, but they don't test for everything. So things like PFAS, things like dioxins that some of these facilities may produce, we don't even test for them. So how do we know that they're safe?
Yeah, true. Or overexposure to ibises or something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All under through that area, as well as all underground waterways. And it doesn't take much for that to be polluted. And we've seen farmland that has been not far from those facilities where they have actually taken those.
They've been affected.
They've been affected, and whole crops lost because there's been some leaching in the waterways. So these are the sorts of things where I think, no one really wants to talk about how we manage our waste, but we all create it. And
Yeah. We're all happy to.
And
yeah,
you wouldn't see a facility like this in Brighton or Toorak, would you? You'd only see it in places like Hampton Park or Dandenong or wherever you can sort of say, these people are sick of being the dumping ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's good that you're there.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. So that's a good way to stay connected to the community, is going out there and listening to these people and talking to the stakeholders.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, that's really good to hear.
A few other things I've sort of realised is I've looked at who is the representation as well. Like I'm one of 5 who represent the Southeast, and I'm sort of, my focus is very much on sort of being able to equate it to my lived experience, and someone who was out of home at a young age, someone who experienced mental health issues as a young person because of that. And, some of those things have sort of led me to connect with those parts of community that don't get that representation. So young people, predominantly young people who are out of home, the mental health support that we have in this area, these are sorts of things that I try and focus on in Parliament, and focus on working with different parts of the community and stakeholders as well in the community.
Yeah, okay. Like, you've had the crash course of empathy. You understand their shoes.
Well, and I think that that's part of my job is to allow people to see, wow, if she went through that and she's here, then I can do that as well. And that's always my intention.
Yeah. That's kind of the aim, isn't it?
It is.
I think I heard someone say you're meant to, if you are in a position of privilege, or not that we have been, everyone's had their adversities or adversities. Yeah. But your position is to clear the path for those who come behind you.
100%.
Yeah. Good. All right. So once you're in, you have to sit in that red room every couple of weeks. Do you think you've changed at all?
Oh, that's a great question. I think if you asked my friends, they would say no, not much really shifts with me. I think if you asked my partner, she'd probably say yes. By way of just my attentions, like my when I'm at Parliament, I'm head in the game. So
okay.
I think politics is very much a lifestyle, and being a member of Parliament is a lifestyle choice and a total privilege. But it's not something you can just turn off. You've always got that front and center, and you're a representative of your community. You're the voice to your community. But also that you've got a job to do and a mandate on doing that. So it's always front and center.
People holding you accountable.
Holding me accountable, I would hope so. Yeah.
And you're representing all these people. Yeah,
That's
wow.
it, yeah. So I think I've probably become a little bit more cynical about government processes.
Yeah, okay.
Like, yeah. A government that's trying to get a fourth term, I would hope it would have been a bit more organised. But,
Okay.
that would be one of my criticisms of trying to understand the machine that is being in government.
Yep.
I don't have that lens, I suppose.
You're not on that side of the wall.
Yeah, understanding things like I didn't realise that there were so many factions within major political parties.
Yeah, I'm peeling back those onions and I'm finding out.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
I mean, I've got a master's degree in public policy and I still didn't understand that there's all these factions and there's
Yeah.
a lot of people within a particular political party may not get along personally, but
Yeah.
funnily enough, us crossbenchers tend to be friends with a lot of different people from all sorts of political persuasions. So, yeah, I think if you were to ask what's changed, I have had to I've always been a very patient person, but I've had to be a lot more patient as well as strategic, as well as just hoping that with a whole lot of luck we're going to get there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Understanding that it's a slow-moving machine sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, even understanding the fact that there's cabinet processes and what that looks like. One of the biggest frustrations I have about the Victorian Parliament and the Victorian government more broadly is that they don't support private members' bills. And I've investigated this because I'm very curious by it, because some of the best legislation we've had in Australia has been via a private member's bill. And we think of voluntary assisted dying, we think of marriage equality, some of these really big social reforms.
Yeah, Barnaby Joyce's net zero thing,
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
See, I mean, even Barnaby throws his hat in the ring with private members' bills. Victoria is the only jurisdiction where the government has a policy position that they do not support private members' bills.
That's wild.
Every other jurisdiction, state or federal, they may not support a lot of them. It might be, 1, 2 in some states. I think it's about 5% support.
But they can at least bring them forward and talk about them.
That's right. And it gives you at least that opportunity to state your case, work with the government of the day to get it to that point where they will be supportive. What I find is that if they are supportive of something you're putting forward, they might give you a few nice words when you do the debate on that, but you're essentially trying to get the government to commit to doing it. And we saw, not so much in this parliament, but the previous parliament, they just reintroduced that piece of legislation with their name on it. There is no change to that legislation.
Okay.
Which is incredibly frustrating. So it means that they just want it to go through their cabinet process before they commit to it.
Yeah, right.
Rather than actually just working with all of those mechanisms in Parliament to get it done.
Yeah, okay. Bittersweet. It's like, it was a good idea, wasn't it?
Yes.
But you got to,
And it's the same people who draft any legislation I introduce as that drafts legislation for the government or the opposition or the Greens or the Shooters Fishers Party. We all go through the one particular central source in Parliament. They are the legislative experts and they provide us that guidance and advice. So it's not like we're just making this stuff up.
Yeah, okay.
It's frustrating and I think it's undemocratic. I really do. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Oh, ouch.
So that would be one of my biggest criticisms of the government.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that does add a lot of, a level of that pessimism in a way.
I think it just makes you feel as though things move very slowly.
Yep.
And for example, I've worked on vicarious liability legislation, which is where predominantly churches or other associations such as sporting clubs or scouts or something like that, where a known perpetrator is not considered liable or vicariously liable because they're technically not an employee. And you think like a priest in a church or a scout leader at Scouts or a soccer coach at a football club, a football coach at a club. If that person has been given that power and authority, then the organisation should be held to account.
Yep.
It's a technicality.
Plausible deniability. It's like, no, they're just a volunteer.
That's it.
They're not. Okay, that's a shame.
So there was a decision made in the High Court in November last year.
State, federal?
It was a state decision, it was a federal decision, a High Court challenge.
Yep, okay.
Which has meant that every state now has to bring in legislation to fix that. And all the attorney generals have been working together to get that done. But Victoria has sort of committed to taking the lead. Now, I debated my bill and also worked with different stakeholders, survivors, legal professionals on developing this piece of legislation to make sure it captured everything we needed. And I debated that in May, sorry.
Last year? This year?
This year.
Yeah,
now,
okay.
the government committed to doing it by the end of the year, and we still haven't seen legislation yet.
Yeah.
So in November, it will be 12 months since that decision was made, which meant that every victim survivor that had a case before court, it's fallen over, and it's meant that, victim survivors, who are some of our most vulnerable in our communities,
Yeah.
don't have that recourse to seek compensation and their day in court, essentially. Now, if the government are going to wait till it's been 12 months, that's pretty disappointing.
Okay.
When the legislation that I introduced, if it's fit for purpose, we'll see. I mean, if they introduce what was presented to them all the way back then, to me, that's concerning by way of this is a really slow process and it impacts people in real life circumstances. So, yes, we have to consider all the unintended consequences, but we are starting to see in other states they're having the same debate, and it's all the legislation is very similar what's being proposed.
Yeah, okay. Very slow moving.
Very.
And by design, maybe.
Maybe.
If I was a conspiracy theorist there. I guess on final question, taking a lot of your time, but final question. If you could go back to the moment when you first considered entering politics,
yes.
what piece of advice would you give yourself and why?
I think for me, the hardest thing has been there's a lot of things that are really surreal about this job. Being in front of like a media pack is a really strange experience.
Yeah, you were saying that with like when you first got the
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So things that could take the guesswork out for you, I would suggest doing, and that all comes down to practice and training and things like that. So if you're naturally a good speaker, you'll find that you'll fall into it. But for me, it's often like, am I getting my point across? Am I making sure that I'm saying this and doing that? And you always walk away thinking, I should have said that. I should have said that.
Yeah. I've got many shower conversations where
always in the shower, you remember.
I should have said it this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess if I was to give myself some advice, it would be prepare more for what is to come. But I don't think I would have known what is to come until I experienced it. So it's kind of a redundant point.
Yeah. Okay. You don't know the beast to fight, so
yeah, that's
you don't know which weapon to pick. Yeah.
Another one for me would just be to make sure that you've got good work-life balance. So keeping that, regular Pilates appointment that you have in your diary, maintaining that, maintaining friendships. You don't get to see your friends or your family as often, but when you do, make sure it's quality time.
Yeah.
Booking some time off so you actually do have some downtime away from politics. You can only be your best self when you are refreshed and rejuvenated. There's nothing like seeing someone running on empty and trying to push forward. So
okay. It shows. Yeah. Okay. It is a lifestyle, like you said. I think I interviewed Gail Broughton. She said the same thing.
Yeah,
it's a lifestyle.
It is.
Being a parliamentarian.
Yeah. Gail's a wonderful community advocate as well. I really enjoy working with. And this is the thing, you get to work with such a variety of people that you would never have thought that you would work with. But you often agree to disagree because, a Conservative member of Parliament will have different viewpoints on different things to what I have.
Yeah.
But we all realise we're there for the same reason, and that is because we care about our community and we want to give our community voice and represent them.
Yeah, that's the common thread I see. Yeah,
definitely.
You all care about where you're from.
Definitely.
Yeah, but there's different approaches, or the state's very diverse.
It is.
You know what I mean? There's different communities and they all need different things, and you can't always just one blanket policy everything.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. No, all right. Fantastic. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. My pleasure, Ethan. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you, Rachel. And all done. This all, cut, done.
Excellent.
Unless it's final words.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.